Welcome back once again, Hooligans. My name is Joe. I am joined, as always, by my toit co-host, Ryan. So we're here to review Nacho Libre. Probably my personal favorite Jack Black movie. I've always really enjoyed it. Now, I know, just off tops, this is just, it's not trying to be anything other than what it is. It's a vehicle for Jack Black to act like himself. He's just doing it with mostly a Spanish accent. A poor Spanish accent. And just like other comedians who do stuff like that, a Will Ferrell or there was somebody else I was thinking of that I can't remember now, but it's just an excuse for them to be able to do that, and we watch them in these movies because, you know, you either enjoy it or you don't. Like Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Mm-hmm, that you just watch them because you like them and what they do and, you know, how they are. And it's an older movie. It's been around quite a while at this point, but I just really, really enjoyed it. I've always really enjoyed it. And when my co-host here told me that he had not watched this movie before, I was like, all right, that's the next movie we're going to do. So, Mr. Ryan, what did you think of Nacho Libre?
I didn't love it.
Okay. You're wrong, but that's fine. It's fine. I don't mind.
This is not a lucky number 11 thing again. I don't know. It's like what you said. It's a Jack Black vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a huge Jack Black fan. I like a lot of his stuff. He's really, really talented. You know, I actually forgot about Tenacious D until he did his like singing part where he's like, I wrote a song in my mind.
So speaking of Tenacious D, just to throw out a little trivia for this. In the very beginning of the movie Nacho Libre, it shows him as a kid. The kid who plays him as a kid in Nacho is the same one who played him as a kid in the Tenacious D Pick of Destiny movie.
Huh.
So
that's interesting. That kid might have a career just playing a young Jack Black for the rest of his life.
Well, you know, for a certain amount of time, I guess. The young actor's name is Troy Gentile, it looks like.
Well, I mean, he's always going to be younger than Jack Black.
Oh, I mean,
so when Jack Black is old, he'll play
middle-aged Jack Black?
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Yeah, I don't really like the kind of movies where it's just allowing the actor to do whatever it is they want. And for me, I think the problem that I have with it is the flow. You know, the fact that so much of it is interrupted, so you can be like, did you see the face Jack Black made? Did you see him kiss that statue on the nose real quick for some reason? And then kind of like glance towards camera. Kind of weird. That being said, you know, there were a lot of points where I was like, I don't like this because I don't like this humor. It was basically any time it was mostly Jack Black. It was, I didn't enjoy it. I don't know. I'm not into his brand of humor. But then anytime there was somebody else, I really enjoyed it. Like, I laughed out loud quite a bit for how much I didn't really like it. And even some of the bits that he did, like he does the eagle egg thing. And then I was like, he's going to do a leap of faith from Assassin's Creed. And he goes like that with his arms, puts them up over his head, jumps into the water.
Not quite as graceful as in Assassin's Creed.
I mean, it's not that much worse, honestly. But then they throw in the fart sound effect. I was like, all right. I got to remember this movie's like 15 years old.
I mean, yeah. I agree with that.
It is funny. And it's interesting that it has a better plot and a better moral than most movies today.
I knew that coming in. I've seen it a number of times because I really enjoyed it. But it does. I figured when you first saw the opening credits and it said a Nickelodeon movie, just off tops, you're going to be like, oh, God. Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not meant for me. It's not made for a grown person, probably.
I mean... Yeah.
Depends on the grown person, maybe.
It does. It does depend on the grown person. Because, you know, we're both big man children. It's fine.
It's true.
I mean, you know.
That's why so much of it did work. Yeah, as an overall package, I just don't like Jack Black that much, especially when he's just allowed to do his thing. But any time where he was interacting with somebody else or there was something else going on, like the ridiculous scene of them getting Ramses ready to fight and that guy sitting in front of him, he's like, Ramses is number one. Ramsey's muscles are number one. All that stuff, and like Ramsey's just looking at him.
Yep.
I really liked all of that humor. Like, essentially, if you could have just clipped out the parts where it's like they pause on him for so long, so they can do something weird with his eyebrows or make his accent really like worse.
Yeah, there were times when he
Bias and
was
stuff. Yeah.
talking, giving him on whatever, and he would just lose the accent for one or two words, just because.
Yeah, and it doesn't make it bad. The only reason it bothers me is it hurts the flow. Because most of the scenes, it's well done. Like, it's well shot, it's well framed. I like a lot about it. I just don't like him.
One of the things
I don't like that it just interrupts all these like tight, concise shots to linger on him while he does something goofy. And I get the impression that a lot of it is probably improvised. It was probably just like, let's see what he does, in the end where he's jumping around in the ring and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I kind of had this feeling they were just like, just do stuff.
Yeah, when they go to the party for all the wrestlers and they break into it, and he's there with the mariachi band. It's not actually, but the little band that's playing, and they're like, "All right, this one's you," and he's like, "Huh?" That whole song was improvised, apparently.
I really enjoyed that scene, by the way. The whole like party scene that I really, really liked. That made me laugh a lot, especially the manager's daughter who's into Escalito.
Yep, that's his woman,
and she's like, there are tunnels, and he looks over and there's this big ass hole in the wall, and he runs away, and she just like crawls through that hole real quick.
Yeah, there was, and that's so ridiculous. There are some ridiculous things that go on in this movie, and I understand that, but there are some choices that I think this director made, and it was directed by Jared Hess, who also did Napoleon Dynamite.
So yeah, you feel that.
Yeah, you do. And I felt that after I looked it up and said, who is this director? What else has he done that I would know? And as soon as I saw it was Napoleon Dynamite, I'm like, okay, I get that. I really kind of like you. I like Jack Black and his humor. I like this a lot because of that. But I will say, one of my favorite parts about this movie, kind of like in the Mosquito Coast, was all these other ancillary characters who were in it for just some of the facial expressions, some of the things that they do. The other priests in his order are great.
I like that there's this older man that they show at his different matches. He's there the first time they go to fight, and he's like cheering in the crowd, and like one eye's facing this way and one eye's facing forward.
Yep.
And he's there at the very end, and he's the one that like starts the Nacho cheer.
He is. There's a couple of specific orphan kids who are really good, who they're there because they have a particular look. The one who's like, why can't we just have like, a salad?
Yeah. And then when Nacho runs away, he's got like one tear coming down his face.
Yes. I wrote that down. He's the one who's got just this one tear because Nacho, he needs a better duty. So this movie, I can understand if you don't like Jack Black and that style of humor, but compared to some of the stuff that comes out now, especially stuff that comes out for kids, it's got heart. It's got a good moral. It has elements to it that, as you said, there's, how do I want to put it? There's elements to it that are very well done. The shots, some of the things that they do. I think some of the decisions that they make when he first tries to go and get his wrestling partner, Escalito, and he wants him to, he wants to confront him. Well, he met him because this person stole the chips that were for they were for the orphans. Did you not tell them they were the Lord's chips?
Dude, that guy was so slimy. That he one priest.
He
was
terrible.
So good.
It's not even his fault. He's had diarrhea since Easter's. And to be fair, the older priest, the one who was in charge of everything, who was great. Every time I watch it, he reminds me of my grandfather on my dad's side. I don't know. Spanish isn't too far off from Italian, and it just reminds me of him. So he's got a special place in my heart for that guy. He was just great for the little tiny bit that he was in. But when he goes to meet Escalito and catch him, as it was, he just takes some of the chips that he stole and he sprinkles them on the dirt ground, and then like goes and hides around the corner, and all of a sudden he like leaps down like this animal, and he's crouched down, he's eating these chips, and that's how Jack Black's character Nacho goes to catch him, and it it's fun. I think a lot of the things that happen in this are fun. I think the wrestling, the different matches are they all have unique characters. They're interesting and fun how they do them. And that's one of the things that I liked a lot. Like in a movie like Dodgeball, and you have all these different groups who have to face off against each other. Instead of it being, in Dodgeball, you watch different groups face off against each other, not necessarily everybody going against the team who is the star of the movie. This was Nacho and Escalito versus all these guys. But because of how many different ones there were, it was just fun to watch.
Yeah, it would have been really kind of typical for a movie to just take a montage sort of approach to it. And they could have done a decent looking montage that we probably wouldn't have complained too much about. But yeah, to show each match and the different way that they went about it, the different way that they lost, even the consistency of the guy paying them at the end every time, and then like the shopping trips and the stuff that they do. Yeah, I like that they put a lot of thought and creativity into it. Again, the movie is well made. Like for what it is, it's well made. I just don't dig it whenever Jack Black's the main one on the screen.
Yeah, there are some moments that are really, really over the top.
Yeah, I had this thought of when he goes to Encarnacion's room.
Mm-hmm.
That
for some toast.
For some toast. And they're sitting there staring at each other, eating this toast. And he's like, "Oh, it's good toast." And he's being very Jack Black. And I kind of had this thought, like, if I had an hour to live, I would want to watch this scene on repeat because it would feel like forever. Just watching them stare at each other. It's so awkward. It hurt me so bad.
I liked how the very moment, so she's introduced as a character, but the very first chance that Ignacio, which is Jack Black's character's name, Nacho is his wrestling name.
Yeah, I used to work with a guy with the same name and nickname.
Really?
Yeah. Everybody
Ignacio
called him Nacho.
And Nacho?
Yep.
That's insane.
I'm actually fairly certain now that this is why.
Oh, okay.
It never occurred to me, but it's like this is probably the reason.
At least there's, because if it would have been before 2006, before this, that would have been quite the coincidence.
Yeah.
So the very first chance he meets this woman, he kind of just mans up right away and asks her out. Says, "Would you like to join me in my room this evening for some toast?" Which is a really weird date request, but as soon as he talks to her, that's the first thing that he does. So he is not afraid to kind of do what he wants sometimes. And then when they're having that interaction, he asks her, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Who is this Encarnacion? And he's asking, well, he wants to know about her.
Mm-hmm.
And she gives the most Playboy bunny answer you could. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, my favorite color is light tan.
I love puppies.
Puppies.
Oh, it was so ridiculous. It was. that was an interesting decision that they made for this. But
I think what they were doing was just making her an object. Because that's totally what she was supposed to be. I think they were kind of leaning into it. And showing how like her stuff is so like stereotypical pretty girl, like generic, like, and kind of blah, like the light tan is the favorite color. That it's like nobody would ever be like, "Oh, that's so weird, me too," but he does.
Of course he does.
Because that's his move.
That's what you do when you're trying to get the girl. That's my favorite thing to do every day. Every day, puppies, just puppies every day. Okay, that's great. This had, I don't know. I think I view it with rose-colored glasses because of how long ago. I mean, at this point, it's been 15 years since it came out, and I really enjoyed it back then. I still enjoy it now. I think it's just a good story, and it's actually one of the things that I was looking up some different trivia on this. the film is partly inspired by a true story. Uh, this Reverend Sergio Gutierrez, how did they say it in Spanish? Fray Tormenta or Friar Storm. I'm sorry, Sergio Gutierrez Benitez. There's all the names. My bad. He was a Mexican priest who became a wrestler to raise money for his parish. So, kind of a similar thing. I was surprised that it was taken from kind of a real life thing. So that was an interesting thing that I learned about this.
Yeah, but it also goes along with like every other movie ever. Where it's like, oh, we got to raise money for this, like Dodgeball. You mentioned Dodgeball.
Mm-hmm.
We got to save our gym, or Blues Brothers. We got to save the orphanage, stuff like that. But it
Yeah.
makes it feel fresh and kind of more real because they give you a lot more about like him being there and his relationship with the kids and his relationship to some of the other priests. And
Mm-hmm. I want to know? What did you think of the opening with the kid? Like from the very opening, I loved it. I'm like, oh man, this kid he gets caught after doing all this stuff. He's trying to act like a wrestler. He goes and he gets all dressed up and he goes and like punches and does some stuff in the cemetery.
yeah,
He throws like two punches and then he like goes and lays down on a plot to like take a nap. This little pudgy kid. I I enjoyed all of it.
yeah, I did too. It kind of reminded me of the Grand Budapest Hotel because it's these like deliberate shot. It's a stationary shot and something happens and then he's doing his own thing and it's telling the story without telling you anything, just showing you. Yeah, I like that. I thought it was pretty good, except I wasn't sure why they were forcing him to be a friar when he was like a little kid. I mean, I know you're not supposed to think about it. He's just kind of being made to go along this path, but that part was just a little bit odd. Like, why? Why wouldn't they just be like, all right, if that's what you want to do, like, go do it? Or is the point that all the children there become friars?
Mm, that's a good question. I never even thought about it
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
something that I thought later on. It's like they're like the one kid, like most of the kids show up to the end fight
Mm-hmm.
wearing like masks and capes and stuff, and it's like, why are none of them? Nobody's like, no, you need to be a friar.
Well, you could probably, if you wanted to explain that, find a couple different ways to want to do it, but who knows?
I did
That's
though.
fair.
I like the creativity of the shots as to how he's pulling the different things that he's going to use. Like he rips off this like tablecloth or whatever, and then they do that again later on when he's making his suit as an adult. Like he's doing it's the same sort of thing that happens again. It's cool to see the follow through that they include these same little threads. Like the guy that shows up at every fight, they have
Mm-hmm.
this way that he does stuff. Like every time he makes a suit, even though he's got money now, he doesn't like go and buy something or have it tailored. He rips like the stitching off the couch. He rips this like, you know, whatever, this edging off of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and for some reason, his homeless partner, Escalito, can sew and knows how to use a sewing machine real
Yeah,
well.
he's wearing that quilted jacket. He's like, feel it. I made it myself.
I made it.
I like that he changes. I like that when you first see him, his teeth are all jacked up, and then after like 2 fights, his teeth are clean and perfectly white. And then he starts dressing nicer, wearing like
Mhm.
nicer clothes, but then he's always eating corn,
He loves it. It
like
looks
corn
delicious.
with butter and paprika or something on it.
Sour cream, I think, is what it is.
Oh.
Or no, I know what it is. Tasha's, we've made it. It's this almost like a garlic aioli kind of a sauce that goes on it. It's really good. This Mexican street corn is really tasty
That was probably one of the funniest moments in the movie where he throws that at that guy.
and unexpected.
Yeah, totally unexpected. Like I knew something was going to happen. It's like they're lingering way too long.
And that
For
the guy
like,
with the knife, he like gets into this weird stance. It just stands there. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? There were a lot of things in this that I thought there was a decent amount of character growth in this movie. Not necessarily for Encarnacion, the female character. I think you're right. I think she was more of just the object. But for Nacho and Escalito and how, growing and coming together as friends and then having a falling out and Nacho learning about, well, maybe I should focus. Have I focused too much on my looks and my fame and my stretchy pants? Like understanding that he needs to, try and trying to do this for the orphans but when the very first time he wins money, that he gets money, he doesn't win it, but he is paid for being in the wrestling match that they lose. He buys stuff for a salad. He's at least that selfless. He doesn't immediately just go and only buy himself stuff. He buys all these groceries at one point when they're doing the scene where they actually buy themselves stuff and they're getting themselves things. And then when he's done, when he already has this big bag of groceries, he goes and then he gets himself that
Pair
the
of white
clothes. They
boots.
look very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. But it was also one of those things where he's like, am I focusing too much on this? And it's like, but you've been like since day one, you've been using that money for what you're saying you're going to use it for now. But I guess maybe her comment, like there's no food for breakfast,
Yeah.
was kind of a thing of like you're letting stuff slip so that you can dress up in your fancy clothes and go to these parties and whatever.
Right, because he was trying to get more involved in it versus just doing it as a side gig kind of thing. I'm just going out at night and moonlighting as a luchador. He wanted to do that life. And so he did. He just let some things slip while he was wearing his PJs. His puffy shirt PJs.
Yeah.
What did you think of the music? Cuz like I really enjoyed most of the music in this.
You know, now that you mention it, I don't remember any of it hardly, which is probably good because it blended into the background like it was supposed to. It just lent itself to whatever was happening in the scene. I don't know. None of it bothered me. It all seemed to work. Like the sound design, the music, it all worked to the point that I like didn't really notice it. You know, kind of like when you watch, I don't know. If you ever listen to the soundtrack for a movie, a lot of the time they have the background music included. And it's like, oh, I didn't even realize that there was like this is the song that was playing during this scene where these two characters are talking or something.
Got you.
It's like, oh, I didn't even realize this dramatic music was playing in the back because it worked so well and it blended in.
Yeah, I kind of think that this film has it all. Like if you take away the fact of the main character, you're not a big fan of him. You've got good buddies, great music, unique characters, a montage. They had a training montage. Gotta love a montage.
They did, yeah. Which I don't understand the point of any of it. Like, let me go in and get tackled by this bull. Let me
It made no sense. You're right.
Like the only one that kind of made sense was the guy with the eagle egg, because it was like, oh, this is a Master Roshi thing, or this is a Mr. Miyagi thing. Like he's having you do this thing, and you don't realize like it's. I mean, it's literally a Dragon Ball thing. Like you have to climb to the top of Korin's tower to get this thing, but it's the climb that makes you stronger. It's not the thing at the top. That's a distraction from the fact that like climbing up this tower is your training.
Got it.
And I was like, that's cool. That works. And then at the end, he like flies.
Yeah.
Or falls with style. He's like
falling
Buzz
with style.
Lightyear at the guy.
That was Peter Stormare, who has been in several other things.
I know.
He was in John Wick 2 as the Russian guy. He's great. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he was. I liked seeing him.
Yeah, it was a fun little cameo.
And he actually high-fived him, which I liked.
It has montage. It has a good bad guy, a good antagonist, and when Nacho first sees him out in the city, it's after he has just had his chips stolen, and he sees this guy, and the very first thing he pulls up in this big Cadillac-looking car, and there's a woman like crouched down, like leaning to the window. Can I get an autograph? He just opens the door and knocks her down.
Yeah,
like what a good introduction as far as this guy being a villain of the movie. But Nacho doesn't notice that. All he sees is this big wrestler, this luchador, and living this life that he wants to live. And it's like he has the rose-colored glasses on himself of not noticing how he acts as a person.
Yeah.
He just, I want what he has. I want that life.
Yeah, that reminds me. The car was a Ford LTD, and it's interesting the level of fame that they had. Like it was just odd. Like it's 200 pesos for this, 10,000 for that. You know, there are going to be 5,000 people watching. I don't know if that was 5,000 people in the stands or 5,000 people that would see it total.
Like 5,000 people.
Yeah, like the level of success that they were reaching was really like realistic and attainable for like a popular amateur event.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like this is the world championships of whatever. I think that I kind of feel like the purpose of that was maybe to give this a timeless feeling. Because when you just see the first part of it, apart from seeing the TV, it could have been in the 1800s, 1700s, 19, could have been up to maybe 1980 because of the car.
Yeah.
But
come on, it's a pimp car.
No, it is a cool car. I'm sure it was an LTD. I actually want to look that up now.
I'm curious now.
Yep, 1975 Ford LTD.
So this movie is, as I said, good villain. There's a love story. There's orphans. There's a baptism. Everything.
Oh my god!
This has it.
Okay, the baptism was one of the Jack Black moments I really liked.
Yep, in the theater, when I saw this in the theater, I laughed the hardest at that.
Oh my god! Yeah,
Force,
just
wow. I don't believe in religion. I believe in science. And they're getting ready to fight Satan's caveman, and so he just swings us the whole scene. It was so good. All right, that redeems you, even if you didn't like the movie. That at least if you liked my favorite scene.
Well,
that
the more I talk about it, the more I like it. I guess really the only part I don't like, the part that like I was like, ugh, it's a Jack Black thing, was pausing so that he could make these weird faces and stuff like that. Like it just, like I said, just broke the flow.
And I didn't like the scene when he goes out with Encarnacion and he's wearing his expensive clothes and he wants to
pose up against that wall. And
oh my god, I didn't like the pose. I did like when he was talking about being a man and he like spreads down. He like gets really close to the ground, like on a was
that weird. Yeah, that like I don't know what that pose was,
that he
but yeah,
goes into.
That I liked when it was like, oh my god, what he did when he like clenched and it made the like whoosh sound effect. I was like, nope, I don't. Man.
From the look on her face, I don't know if she was a fan of that either.
It was hard to say. I like, speaking of that the love story is left a little bit ambiguous.
Yeah,
his life has changed, but he's still a friar. He's wearing like a blue leisure suit version of a friar's robes.
Oh man!
At the end, and they're together, but they've got all the orphans. They're still wearing their religious stuff.
Right? Like, she's totally got the habit of the nun, all the whole thing on.
Mm-hmm.
So it does. There's no.
It's not conclusive.
Absolutely, and it's a kids movie. It doesn't need to throw all of that in your face. He does when he's going to go out and he gets a chance to fight Ramses because of the things that happen at the very end, which it's one of those unbelievable moments, and he's not going to win. Like Ramses is like twice his size, but all muscle, and Jack Black wasn't tiny. He was quite the specimen of man. As he said it, his muscles are number one. His eyes, number one. There were some good lines in this. I always liked a lot about it. I mean, bonus for me because I like Jack Black. I did enjoy when Ignacio, not as Nacho, but as himself, he was walking the orphans around the city, the little town, and showing, well, that's where the best corn is. That's a crazy lady. And one of the kid's like, oh, Ramses. And they come out like, him and three other of the evil guy wrestlers, the bad guys. They come out, but they're full get up. Like he's wearing, it's not even full get up. He's got like this sweater on, some nice pants. Like he just got changed out from working out and got cleaned up, but they're still wearing their masks. Like, is that how that actually happens? Do they just wear their luchador masks everywhere? Because I know, as they showed in some of the wrestling matches, if you have somebody who can pin you down and take your mask off, that's a sign of disrespect, and it's not okay.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it. I've seen stuff in the past about luchadors. I don't think they wear the mask in like their daily life, but they wear them for public appearances. So when he's going to a party or a restaurant or something like that, where there's going to be a lot of people that'll know who he is, he would wear it. Or if you're going to be in an interview or something like that, you'd wear it. But yeah, as far as going to the gym, can you imagine how nasty that mask would be?
Oh God. Yes, Yes, I can imagine how nasty this mask that I put on to start this thing after sitting in
Ugh.
a box for however long, but nasty in a different way. So I can't imagine. But yeah, would that and I was just curious about it. Is it something that they would actually do, like that public appearance thing you're talking about, or you're just coming out of the gym? I'm just gonna come out of the gym and be done and be cleaned up, and all that stuff is gonna be packed away in my gym bag like that. I don't know.
And
I
if
kind of
they,
felt like they did it more of a comedic. They're coming
yeah,
out and they're interacting in that in the entire movie. The whole movie, Ramses never has the mask off. He has
yeah,
it on the whole time.
it would have been funny to see him with it off. Since he's wearing it in every scene, I feel like they could have made a little joke about like tan lines and stuff like that. Like just the tip of his nose and right around his lips are tan, and the rest of them's like stark white.
Oh my gosh, that okay, that could have been really good. Apparently, that guy, the actor Cesar Gonzalez. I mean, he's not even an actor. He's just a wrestler. He's an actual luchador. It's what he does. He's
Hmm.
the Silver King wherever he wrestles at, and he's comes from a family of luchadors.
Well, then that could be why he had to wear that mask the whole time.
That could be.
Might have been part of his like his deal. He's like, I don't show my face, so
Yep. And whatever it was fine. I liked him as a bad guy. I thought he was a good bad guy.
yeah, it was a good bad guy. They didn't have to do a lot to humanize him.
Yep.
They didn't make him sympathetic. He was just the best, and he thought a lot of himself, and that was about it. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't need more than that.
You don't. It's just somebody for the audience to root against. That's all you needed, and that's what you got with him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just thought that this was a fun movie. You hadn't seen it, and so I'm like, all right. I was kind of almost at a loss for what else to pick, and time was kind of rolling along. So I'm like, all right, we can record today. So hey, we're gonna watch this, and I can always watch it because I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I like it. I think I like it more than I thought I did. I just really don't like the little moments where they stop on Jack Black. But thinking on it, like a lot of these scenes and moments that we're talking about, I really did enjoy, and I really laughed a lot over more than I thought I would. It was like The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Hmm.
Not quite to that level because that movie's fantastic.
And you like both Ryan Reynolds
Yeah.
and Sam Jackson.
Yeah, there was like no part of that movie I didn't like. This one had a little bit that I didn't like, but it was still one of these things where I didn't really know what to expect, and I was actually laughing out loud for quite a bit of it.
Because it's funny. There's just
It is.
really
There's
clever things that they do with it that make you laugh.
yeah, there's a lot of dumb humor that's just like farting and stuff like that, and Jack
Yeah.
Black making faces. But then there's a lot of it that's the situation, the ridiculousness of the situation without people having to make those faces. Like, seriously, I can hear it right now in my mind. Escalito, like his scream is like, ah, he sounds like one of those videos of a goat screaming as the chick's trying to pull him back into that hole in the wall
Oh, right. Or when
at the party.
the very first wrestling match, Nacho bets his hair. That's what he did. I remember I happened to have subtitles on Netflix because I already had them on from something else, and he bets his hair, and so every time in a match they rip out a chunk of his hair.
Okay. I actually thought about turning on the subtitles to see what they were saying, but I figured I just didn't want to. Like they would have had them, baked into it if they wanted us to know.
Yeah, it was. I liked how it's just a fun family. This is a family movie. You can sit down with your kids. It's got a good story. There's nothing inappropriate in it, and they throw a lot of stuff like that in movies nowadays, kid movies that maybe they shouldn't, or they can at least in sometimes do it in ways that kids aren't really going to get. Because I've seen the YouTube videos of all these little hidden things in kids' cartoons that were absolutely inappropriate that kids will never catch. But this was just a fun, funny, kind of witty at times, had really good heart to it, a good message, and I've always enjoyed it. I always will. I like it a lot, and I hope anybody out there who hasn't seen it, like even if you're like Ryan, not a fan of Jack Black so much, the movie itself is still absolutely worth a watch because it's well done, especially if you ended up watching or liking Napoleon Dynamite. It's very similar. When I found out that the director did that movie as well, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I felt the same kind of vibe from both movies, the way they did things with it.
Yeah, and the pacing is very similar too. There are these moments that drag on in Napoleon Dynamite where you're at the guy's trailer, the uncle's trailer or whatever, and he's like, I could throw this ball over those mountains. And it kind of just lingers there for a little while. And it, ugh.
uh, okay, I hadn't seen that movie in a while. His uncle was one of the best parts of that whole movie.
Yeah.
He was so ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would agree. If you like Jack Black, you're going to love it, probably. I can't imagine why you wouldn't, because I don't like Jack Black, and I liked most of the movie. But yeah, if you're not into that, if you're not into like the character kind of specific humor, maybe, I don't know, go into it cautiously. But it's on Netflix right now, so there's no,
And
as long as you have Netflix, you're not really risking anything.
I feel like one thing Jack Black's been able to do that some other actors than the one that pops into my mind for them as the biggest offender of this right now is Will Ferrell. Making so many movies that's just that. That's just you act like this, and we're gonna film a movie around you, and we're gonna just keep making those.
Yeah,
Jack Black hasn't really done that. That he's branched out and done other things, and it's not just him acting the same in everything that he does.
I actually kind of want to go watch some other Blackjack stuff.
Some Blackjack stuff?
Wait, what?
What?
I actually want to go and watch some other Jack Black stuff just to see if maybe I'm imagining it. I feel like he does this in a lot of his movies, but then you're right. He's branched out into movies where he is a serious actor or more serious, where he's not making faces and farting, and that's like half the humor of it. I do agree though that Will Ferrell has become the worst. I used to think it was Adam Sandler, but I think Will Ferrell's gotten worse. Like I will not go see that Sherlock Holmes movie that they did. I kind of wanted to.
I watched the previews and was like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to like. I like Sherlock Holmes. I read all the original stories.
You would not like it, I bet.
Yeah, I don't think I would, because it looks like that. It's just Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly doing their thing and calling themselves Holmes and Watson. Oh yeah, that's what the movie's called, Holmes and Watson.
Holmes and Watson, yes.
Yeah, they're. It just looks awful.
It does look awful. Bad. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, there's a trend, I guess, of doing that and just trying to get the most out of squeezing every last drop of what worked in other movies. Like, I liked Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly in Talladega Nights. But that's about it. Like, nothing else. Step Brothers, I like Step Brothers.
I like Step Brothers. I never saw Talladega Nights, though.
Talladega Nights is fantastic. Talladega Nights is really good. But Step Brothers was... I didn't like the idea. And it's one of those movies that if you don't really like the concept, you're probably not going to like it. And I didn't like the concept of two man children and watching them do man-child stuff. Excessive, man. Not like we like to watch movies or play video games sometimes, but we also, like have spent our lives going to work and having responsibilities and, living our lives without being under the blanket of parents and things like that. I didn't sound funny to me. Unlike the Adam Sandler movie that I think we need to watch, Don't Mess with the Zohan, where he's the ex-Israeli counter-terrorist guy who wants to become a hairstylist in New York. I thought the concept sounded funny to me. And I'm like, all right, I like Adam Sandler's humor sometimes, so I'll check it out. I ended up really enjoying it.
Yeah, I like it sometimes. I don't like... I don't know. A lot of his stuff can be summed up in like any of the times where he's yelling. I feel like there's a lot of that in his movies, like "Quit looking at me, Swan," like that sort of vibe to a lot of it. It's just him being super over the top. But then he has other ones where he plays obviously a bit character, but it's a character, like Little Nicky. Little Nicky is a dumb movie, but it's not the typical Adam Sandler movie, even though it sort of is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not exactly the same. It's not Adam Sandler being Adam Sandler.
Or The Waterboy, same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a super over-the-top actor playing a super over-the-top character. And that works. It's funny. And Little Nicky's funny for a lot of other stuff that happens in that movie.
Surprisingly so. You wouldn't think so. But, I guess all this really comes down to, in essence, with things like that, it's going to be your own personal preference. If you like Holmes and Watson, all right, more power to you. If you watch that movie and it made you laugh, all right, there's excuse me, just because it doesn't work for everybody else, who cares? It's not anything, you don't need to be concerned with that. And because of things like that, personal preference, whatever, you know, Hollywood can get some of this stuff to work because they know there's going to be a specific audience who's going to want to see this. And some are going to see it and be like, oh, that was terrible. Others are going to see it and they're going to laugh and they're going to enjoy themselves. And, that's really what all these are about. It's all about entertainment.
Hmm.
And out of the Jack Black movies that I've seen, he's had some pretty okay ones. School of Rock was really good. And this came out after the success of School of Rock for him, which, again, just a movie, Jack Black just being able to be Jack Black. That's basically what that whole thing was. But kind of like this movie, had heart, had some sort of soul, some good, some goodness to it. And this is just his version of that with a Spanish accent.
He's a very good physical actor. There aren't very many of them anymore. Even now, stuff he posts online where he'll wear like basically the Nacho Libre tights and a little Captain America shield and helmet and just be doing stuff in his backyard.
Yeah, he posted some during the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
I saw some of that stuff that he put out there. It's pretty good.
And along with what you're saying, there's nothing wrong with liking different kinds of humor. There are probably a lot of people who've never seen dumb humor like this. Like you said, it's a Nickelodeon thing. It's more aimed at kids. But yeah, I could totally see somebody who's like, no, they just watch serious movies all the time, or they don't watch movies hardly at all. And then they see something like this and it's hilarious because they're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe my problem is that I've just seen too much of it, too much Adam Sandler stuff, too much Will Ferrell, definitely too much Will Ferrell stuff. He got way too successful from Anchorman.
Yeah.
And they're like, just do that. But you'll be Anchorman as Sherlock Holmes, you'll be Anchorman as a race car driver, and you'll be Anchorman as a like whatever.
Yeah, just go be yourself, make your own character. Basically we'll put it this way, it is what it is. Hollywood's just looking to make money. Same as all the rest of us are looking to make money.
Yeah,
We're
and they
going to
go
find a way in our world and do things, and if they can cash in on it, that's one of the biggest problems I have with Hollywood right now. They're failing to come up with new ideas. And so they just recycle things that have already happened and they have to rehash things. And it's terrible. Like there's so many good stories that are out there, so many things that have been written that you could turn into something good, but nobody wants to take a chance on that. Why would I take a chance on this new superhero nobody's ever heard of, at least a number of years ago, when I could just make another Spider-Man or another Batman movie? Because those will make money.
Yeah.
Now they're getting more away from that, especially with the superhero genre, because of how popular they have become and how much success has come even to the ones that are much less known. Like Guardians of the Galaxy was the first really big one to do that, to take characters nobody had ever heard of ever, except for super heavy duty comic book people, and it blew up because of how well it was done. But
yeah, which is why you're getting the Eternals now and all this other stuff. These heroes that are even more out there, and they can have great stories. I mean, that's kind of the draw of comics, is they have a lot of great stories to choose from and draw from if they choose to actually follow them or ignore the ones that were failures, because there are a lot of them that were kind of failures that it's like, okay, yeah, just because it was a comic book doesn't mean it was great. Please don't adapt everything.
Yeah, it's just getting really old to Disney remaking their movies and all these other remakes that have come out. You have what am I thinking of? Total Recall got remade. The Terminator keeps getting done. The Predator movies. Some of these you just need to let them go.
Yeah, the Disney ones bother me a lot. It's like it's exactly the same movie, just worse, because you took it out of the medium it was originally meant for. A lot of them are based on old fairy tales or whatever, but they're not. It doesn't seem like they're adapting the fairy tale. They're adapting the old movie.
Exactly.
They took a fairy tale and adapted it to an animated movie, and it worked. And now they're trying to adapt them to CG and live action, and they're taking away a lot of the songs and a lot of the expression and things that can come from animation, hand-drawn animation, and it removes a lot of the heart from it.
The only one of those that I've liked was the done version of the Jungle Book, one of the first ones that came out, one of the earlier ones.
I didn't
Jon
see that one.
Favreau did it. It was really good. I liked it maybe more than the original cartoon.
Hmm.
And part of that was because some of the actors who were in it, Idris Elba played a great Shere Khan. You had Christopher Walken as King Louis. Well done. There was some well done stuff in that movie. You had Bill Murray as Baloo the Bear. So you had some major names that I like, and they're very charismatic to help that movie along. And I thought it was really well done. But the other ones that have come out have not been there. They've not been good, and I haven't. I'm really sad to say that because of the success of the movie, like The Jungle Book, and how much people like that one, like, oh, well, that worked. So now we can do all these other ones. I hope
Yeah.
it. I hope it does not pay off for them at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there are a lot of properties I feel like being kind of squandered by the CW. You know, like Arrow I thought was really good for the first 2 seasons. 3 and 4 not great, 5 good. Better. The Flash was pretty good to start, but it's
The first season.
It's kind of like how the Marvel movies went. They kind of figured out a formula, and now it's getting old. Like, we don't need this cringy humor all the time anymore. And the CW kind of said, well, odds are what they did was they realized that it was mostly teenagers, young 20s watching.
Yeah, they know their audience.
I mean, that's where I was when Arrow first came out. And they just decided we're going to make it one of our dramas, just a teen drama. It's going to be just Riverdale with superheroes or whatever, Dawson's Creek, something like that. So most of what's going on in the stories are people keeping secrets and conversations in hallways and the fight scenes and the action stuff and the complex ideas. Sometimes they're explored well, but a lot of times they're not. And I really hoped that Batwoman would be good enough to make me want to watch it, but I've heard so many people say it was terrible that I just haven't. But the character of Kate Kane in the comics is, I think I told you in another, either just talking personally or in another episode, she was in the comics what she is in the show. You know, former soldier who kind of was lost and looking for purpose, ends up running into Batman. That's where the similarities end, because she doesn't run into Batman. She ends up being Batman's cousin and comes in and just takes over from him. But it's that she's trained by him and becomes part of the Bat family and becomes a hero in her own right. And I thought that would be really cool to see. But when I heard, like, no, she's going to be Batman's cousin now, and she's just going to come in and take everything over.
That's not how that works.
No, that's
the only thing that would come of that is she'd get killed.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, like, Batman trained for, he didn't have powers. He just trained for a really, really long time.
Yeah, imagine how much worse The Mask of Zorro would have been if Antonio Banderas' character didn't meet Zorro, but just found his stash of, like, weapons and masks and whatever. And he was like,
decided to just take on the mantle.
Yeah, I'm just Zorro now, without any of the training or anything. I mean, she had training because she was ex-military in the comics, at least. I don't know if that's still her background in the show. They also chose, like, the skinniest person I've ever seen in my life. I realized that Ruby Rose,
yeah,
she was in John Wick, the second or third one, whatever.
Second.
And she was great. I really, really liked her in that. She was a great opposite to John. Like, she was really, really entertaining to watch. But I think it's the way her clothes were, the way she was. It's that kind of fighting style we've talked about, where you use leverage and, you know, skill against somebody who's larger than you. But in this, she's like 110 pounds. And she's supposed to be beating up guys my size. I realize it can happen. It just seems really unlikely. And it also seems unlikely that if you're training to be able to, like, climb up buildings and stuff like that, that you're going to stay that small. It's an odd...
It doesn't work that way.
It's an odd casting choice. It's an odd way for her to get into it. It's weird that she can just do all the Batman stuff right away. It's weird. I don't know. A lot of it's weird. Apparently a thing in that show is that kryptonite is the only thing that can hurt the Batsuit. Don't know why. Yeah. Like, the Batsuit is bulletproof, but if you shoot it with a kryptonite bullet, it will penetrate it.
Really?
Apparently.
This is the moment in the Critical Drinker video where he would cut to that scene of all the kids on the floor covered in mud with a fart sound. It'd either be that or J. Jonah Jameson laughing.
Yeah.
One of the two of those is where that would come in.
But I mean, it's a property that could have been really cool. And I think if they wanted to take the risk, I think, with everything we've seen from Marvel, you could make a live action Batman Beyond now.
Mhm.
You can stay within the universe and even within like sort of the lineage of some of these other heroes, or even go back. They made a Shazam movie, and Captain Marvel was more popular than Superman for a long time. Captain Marvel, if I'm not mistaken, was the first superhero to have like a live action movie of
Oh,
any
maybe.
kind. I mean, they could just do a Flash, but it's Jay Garrick Flash, right? And they could be set in the past. It could be just that story. It could be, or it could be just kind of a more timeless version, kind of like the Umbrella Academy is a little bit timeless because
Okay.
the cars are all over the place, the technology is all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really just tired of seeing things that have already been done.
Yeah, I
Like
think the
there's
only one that did it really well was Elementary, which was the Johnny Lee Miller, I think. Yeah, and Lucy Liu as Watson.
Oh, I know what you're talking. I didn't see it, but I know what you're talking about
I
now
saw a
when you said Lucy
lot of it.
Liu.
I didn't finish the show. I assume it's over because it was around like 10 years ago, but it
Probably.
was pretty good because it was written in a way that explored like his issues. He came to New York, not because of like, let's just do it in New York because everything's in New York. I mean, I'm sure that's what it was, but they actually had a reason for him being there. They had like links to his past in London. John Watson being gender swapped for Joan Watson. That wasn't really a thing back then that people would complain about. It
Okay.
was just like, oh, that's interesting that it's a woman this time and it's Joan Watson. That's kind of clever. But they wrote her to be different than John Watson from the books.
Okay.
Like he wasn't the same kind of person. They had a different dynamic because of that, but there was not a romantic thing in it either. It wasn't like, well, what if this was also the love interest? They handled it very well. They made Joan a fleshed out character, so it didn't feel like, well, you're just changing the character I always liked into a female for no reason.
And
They
keeping the
they can
character aspects the same.
Yeah, they completely rewrote the character to be a new type of person, new setting, you know, all this
Okay.
stuff. And they handled it really well. I mean, it was just a procedural type show. The only thing that really bugged me about it was it's always a murder.
Okay.
And in the Sherlock Holmes books, it was not always a murder. It
Okay.
was like, my stuff went missing, or I don't understand where this person's going every day. Help me figure it out. There are all sorts of mysteries other than somebody dying.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of that, the things that are going on that they just want to race swap or gender swap just to do it. How about do it, but give us a good fleshed out character. And if you do that, people are less prone to care. Like that's how that works. They're not just gonna care because oh, you changed this, you changed that. By by changing more than just a superficial aspect of the character, you're just giving us a new character. And as long as you do it well without trying to crap all over whatever the original was in a way that, oh, well, this one's better than that one because of all these reasons. If you're just, no, this is a different character that we thought was interesting and here's our take on it.
Yeah. Or I've read that in some cases the director wants a character to be a certain way because they're that way.
Mm,
There's some aspect of themselves they want them to have this interest or this personality trait or this sexuality because it's theirs personally and they want it
uh huh.
represented. It's like, well, then create your own character.
Right? Like,
I mean,
create your own character that's well thought out and intriguing and something that can appeal to more than just that one niche group. I mean,
or to just you because you're the
yeah.
one that wanted it. Like, I don't mind changing traits and stuff as long as they do it for a reason. Like I'm saying,
Hmm.
they completely rewrote John Watson as Joan Watson and it worked really well. They didn't just say, well, I want it to be an Asian American female because I'm an Asian American female and I'm writing the show or whatever.
Got you.
Like all of everything, worked because they integrated all those characteristics into the character. If there was a reason to change the sexuality of a character who had never been displayed as being whatever that is in the comics, but there's a reason to do it in the movie, fine. Not a big deal. I don't know. I don't really care so much about that anyway. But
Right? But
it's
that's,
what I don't like is just a director coming in and being like, "Well, I'm just gonna change this thing and make it a big deal because it affects me personally."
yeah. And to swing this all the way back around to the movie that we originally were reviewing in this podcast, Nacho Libre, like we said at the end of it, how it's ambiguous. I like how even though there's he obviously likes her throughout the whole. It's not nothing is surprising about that, and he sings songs about we can break our vows. No, we can't. But if you would too, break our vows together, like the whole thing. But they don't have to have that moment where they kiss, where you see them. They get out of bed, they come out of the same room in the morning together, and it's implied that things happened. It's none of that, and I like that.
Yeah,
We
they
we are
look at
so
each other and they
uh-huh,
kind of like smile at the end of the
right.
movie. It's like, hey,
She gives him like a thumbs up.
yeah, like everything's cool.
And just based on how much we're inundated by that on a daily basis, anything that has to do with sex and sexuality all the time, everywhere. Like it's all over the place. You can almost not get away from it in any media that you take in. That it's nice to sit down and watch something that's not just a really dumb kids movie or cartoon that isn't involved with that.
Well, it's like that Quentin Tarantino interview that was fairly recent as of the recording of this. I don't know when this is going to come out, probably like a month from now. But yeah, he was saying I forget, somebody asked him this question about, how much this character got to talk versus that character and how well represented they are. And, why did you choose not to represent this group in that way? And he was like, well, I reject your whole hypothesis. And then he had an interview. I read the article. I didn't see the interview.
Okay.
So I'm not clear if I think it was Bill Maher that was interviewing him. I don't know if it was Bill Maher that asked him that initial question, but in that interview, he's telling him that the problem he has is that issues of representation and gender and sexuality and things like that are now coming ahead of the story. They're now more important than the quality of the story or the entertainment value of the movie. He's just pointing out that he thinks that is either a problem now or could potentially be a problem. He's also the same guy who said that he likes to film on film because it forces you it's more expensive and it makes you think more about what you're doing. It makes you be more intentional with what you're doing. So it's clear that he's somebody who focuses a lot on not just what he's doing, but how he's doing it and the intention he's putting into it.
Okay.
So, I mean,
which makes sense. I kind of think some of his movies that I've seen, if they've kind of gone a little downhill over the years, but it's varying. Like we said in this, it's just a matter of taste. Like the Hollywood one. What was that called?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You're a big fan of that movie. I was not as big a fan of that movie. It was a lot. It was a lot of movie.
It was a lot of movie.
It was a lot of movie to get to the end of it, which I loved. It absolutely had the payoff that you hoped for the whole time. It was fantastic, but it was a lot of movie to get through to get to that.
Yeah, that's true. There was a lot of sort of indulgence with these shots and the way everything's framed and filmed, and I enjoyed it. It's it's my taste. The whole movie was kind of paced like that, so it didn't really bother me. There was no point where it's like, oh, well, this scene is just dragging on so you can see how pretty it is to drive through Hollywood in the 60s or whatever.
Well, I don't know about you, man. You got what else we got? We got anything?
No, I think I'm done. I think we've rambled enough.
We have. There's been, I don't know, at least 20 minutes or more of us rambling. So, folks, Howligans, thanks once again for listening to us. Ryan, where can they acknowledge or get acknowledgement from us if they would like to reach out and touch us? Where can they do that?
We would greatly appreciate that through email, which is moviehowl@gmail.com. You can also tell us that Movie Howl is number one. Movie Howl's muscles are number one. On Twitter @MovieHowl or my Twitter @ManPanda.
Thank you once again, folks. This was, I know as far as Nacho Libre, I'm obviously a watch. Ryan?
I'd say it's a watch, but, be prepared that you're not getting something super deep. I don't think you're going to think that you're getting anything deep from a movie called Nacho Libre, but yeah, it's a fun movie to just throw some popcorn in your face and watch because it, like you're saying, it does have a lot of heart.
Okay, well, I'll take that. I'm pretty sure that we've covered everything we want to cover in this. And as always, everyone, thank you so much if you've taken the time to listen all the way through this. We really appreciate it. We have fun doing it. We're going to keep doing it because we just enjoy it. But thank you. Thank you for listening. And I'm Joe.
I'm Ryan.
We're out.